What's up, everybody? It's your boy Q Hicks, and I'm back with another video on week 8 of the Big 3. This was the final week of the regular season, so I will be diving into my Big 3 awards and giving you guys my playoff predictions. If this is your first time on the channel, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. Now let's dive into it. In the first game of the week, we had TriState versus Triplets, which looks like it could be a championship preview, but even going into the game, it was the matchup of the two best teams, and it was a high energy game from the jump. And it would be a back and forth first half with balanced scoring on both sides. Everybody was getting involved, but Justin Dittman took over late in the first, making plays on both ends to give TriState a 26-19 lead at half, while Joe Johnson got off to a slow start for the Triplets. To start the second half, the Triplets would go on a mini run to get the game within 2, but Earl Clark would start hitting on all cylinders. He scored 8 of his 14 points in the second half to extend the lead. The entire game, TriState would pester Joe Johnson with double teams, and the Triplets didn't take advantage of their opportunities down the stretch to get back in the game, so TriState would seal the game on a Dittman layup. Larry Sanders and Earl Clark each finished with 14 points, while Joe Johnson had 16 for the Triplets. Both teams punched their ticket to the Bahamas. Next, we had Trilogy versus the Killer Threes. This was a matchup of MVP candidates Jarrett, Jack, and Dante Green, and they wouldn't disappoint. Both got off the good starts going blow for blow. Green scored 8 first half points while Jack scored 9 early, while the rest of their teammates tried to catch a rhythm. But Isaiah Briscoe and James White would score the last 9 points for Trilogy to put them up by 3 at the half. The second half would start how the game started, Jack and Green going back and forth, really controlling the game. But the game would change midway through the second half, when Green would be kicked out for getting 2 techs after being frustrated at a foul call. So the Killer Threes were down their best player, and the score was 35-38, Trilogy was up. And Trilogy had an opportunity to go up by double digits by just knocking down some free throws. They wouldn't take advantage, and they only would be up 5 after the free throws. From that point forward, the Killer Threes would battle back, going toe-to-toe with Jack, led by CJ Watson and Frank Nitty, and it was 48-49, Killer Threes would take the lead. And Watson would seal the game with a game-winning layup to keep their playoff hopes alive, while Trilogy had to sit on the edge unsure if they were going to make it. Jarrett Jack finished with 23, while CJ Watson had 15. Next, we had the Three-Headed Monsters versus the Ghost Ballers. Being undermanned with no Mike Taylor, somebody had to step up for the Ghost Ballers, and Chris Johnson came out on fire for them, scoring 13 early points. But Reggie Evans would match his energy early, scoring 12 to make it a back and forth close half, ending with the Three-Headed Monsters up 3. But in the second half, the Three-Headed Monsters would take over, coming out on a 14-0 run. Evans, Kevin Murphy, and Rashard Lewis were just taking turns scoring, eventually going up by 22 as they punched their ticket to the Bahamas. And in the last game of the week, we had Power versus Ball Hogs. This game really didn't have any playoff implications, but it was the matchup of 2 of the best scorers in the Big 3, in Dusan Bulut and Leandro Barbosa. And Bulut and Power would end up taking the W in blowout fashion, finishing the season at 4-4. Moving on to player of the week, it is Reggie Evans scoring 20 points and getting 14 rebounds in a pivotal win versus the Ghost Ballers. And for moment of the week, it is Amir Johnson's poster dunk. Now let's move on to playoff predictions. So the matchups for the playoffs right now are TriState versus Trilogy and the Triplets versus the Three-Headed Monsters. So I will have TriState beating Trilogy because I do think TriState is the most complete team at this moment, and the Triplets have the GOAT Joe Johnson, and I think they will beat the tough and hard-nosed Three-Headed Monsters. So we will have the matchup that we've seen this week in TriState versus the Triplets. I will have TriState beating the Triplets in the championship game. Let's move on to the Big 3 Awards of Season 4. For MVP, I have Joe Johnson winning. He's still the best player in the Big 3. His team was tied for first, and he was top 2 in most statistical categories. Joe Johnson is the MVP. Coach of the Year goes to TriState's Dr. J, getting the team tied for first at 6-2. Fourth Man of the Year is Isaiah Briscoe. He only played 7 to 8 minutes a game, and he still averaged 12 points. He was clearly the best bench player. For Defensive Player of the Year, it is Jason Richardson. We seen his defensive prowess in the last game versus the Triplets against Joe Johnson. I think he's clearly the Defensive Player of the Year. For the too hard to guard player of the year, it is Leandro Barbosa. He was second in the league in scoring at 21 points. People really couldn't stay in front of him. He lived up to his name of the Brazilian Blur. He would have been higher in the MVP conversation if the Ball Hogs won more games. And for newcomer of the year, it is also Leandro Barbosa. It being his first year, he still thoroughly dominated the Big Three. And for play of the year, it is Frank Nitty's poster dunk on Jason Maxiell.
Blocked by Charlo. Nitty! Oh! He just caught a body! Posterized Jason Maxiell.
And I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you got all the way to the end, I really rock with you. If this is your first time on the channel, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter. And definitely let me know what you would like to see next. And we out. Peace.